leading off?
Oh, you can.
Welcome to Simon Stadium for the VCFL Championship for 2012. Rod Morris and Matthew Gibbs on commentary, and it's Bellarine versus the Western Border Football League, and it's Bellarine into attack first, picked up by Chapman of Western Border. He flicks it out to, look like his captain in Grant Coxon. Coxon can't get a free kick away. Back over to the running brigade. This time it's Simon Berkefield, the vice captain of the Bellarine, Western Border. Tim Malera, ex-AFL listed player with the Adelaide Crows, gets onto it now and flicks it out to, in that case, Jesse Fry, an ex-East Gambia player in the Western Border. Berkefield runs through again, but he's stopped in his tracks by Anderson of the Bellarine. And the Bellarine guys come out of the half-back line, but it's not a clear run. It's a rough tackle around the half-back line. But the Western Border with control of it now, trying to get up forward, but there's not many options. Berkefield gets under it. The South Gambia captain and former premiership player back in 2009, and a really gun player in the side, Matthew. He'll be one to watch this afternoon.
Yeah, some good aggression there too. I thought he did well just to create space. I know he didn't have a man really getting up on him there, so to come into about a 35-metre goal, and hopefully he can put it through. Looks pretty decent off the boot. And there's the first goal of the afternoon. So Western Border 1-0-6. Bellarine yet for 1 minute into the first quarter.
Simon Berkefield was equal winner of the Brian Hennessy medal, which is best and fairest in the Western Border in 2011. He shared it with Brad Vassell of Caston, who's now playing up in Northern Territory. Got a fantastic basketball record too, Simon Berkefield. Matthew, he's won 8 or 9 best and fairest in 12 seasons and runner-up in the others. So.
Talented in two sports.
No shortage of talent. Over here, Matthew.
Of course. Ball up in the middle, and there's been a free kick paid, a centre square infringement. It's going to go the way of Western Border. So they'll look to bring it into attack and go deep inside 450, go to a 2-on-1 contest. Bellarine have the numbers, now tracking out there. It might be Thomas for Western Border. Get the hands out to O'Neill. O'Neill was caught almost immediately. Gibbs, a very quick play for Bellarine, works it back out through Owen. The kick was only as far as Hawkins now. Hawkins on the far side, just looking at his options. There isn't many. Goes to a long target, but it's going to be Orvis who's up there too. Owen will claim the mark. Didn't even think that he took it, but he goes wide to Robinson, the veteran, the Ox from Geelong Ammos. Robertson around the corner, Ridings, Queenscliff's new recruit this year, has been very, very good, one of their best so far this season. Ridings along the line, looking for his teammate in Scott, but didn't find the ball. Now we're all wrapped up, and the umpire's going to call it.
I thought he was going to be rushing in to pay a free kick there, but he's actually decided to go and ball it up. It's on halfway between half forward flank and the wing for Western Border on the members' side of Simmons Stadium, or Cardinia Park, as I grew up with it, Matthew at least. But now it's Western Border. Underneath the ball, that's Brad Bryant, a South Gambia player, to his teammate in Simon Berkefield. He flicks it over the top, and by Daniel Falcone of Portland. He'll run the ball out of bounds, or boundary thrown. 3 minutes into this first quarter. Western Border leading 1-0.
Dyson Bell Warren getting up there looking a little bit ginger. One of Anglesea's best last season. Ball thrown up. Orvis just won it so easily and tapped it to his Queenscliff teammate in Ridings, who tried to dish the hands out. Could have been a free kick there to Finch. Wasn't paid. Robinson just has so much time. Goes around the corner to Taylor. Taylor, the tattooed man, goes up high. Bell Warren was underneath it but couldn't take the grab, and the ball trickles out. It's almost the same position once more.
With no advantage there. Bellarine had possession but couldn't clear it. So it was good defence by the Western Border. This is the ruckman for Western Border is Michael Bennett. We'll pick up the Bellarine one. But the Bellarine guys lead down to the wing position. It's going to be a battle right in front of the interchange box. I think the ball might have been touched before it went over the boundary line. That's how they called it. So boundary thrown right in front of the interchange box. 4 minutes into this first quarter.
That was Tim Clark down there, number 13 for Bellarine. Does not shirk a contest, a very big body in there, and always does well. Orvis might have been being held in the ruck, play on call. There's Ridings again, he's had a fair bit of it early. Inside, the tackle was Anderson. Motowari's only representative in this interleague side, and he's been called for holding the ball. Umpire's hot on that fairly early, and it's going to be Brett O'Neill who takes the kick. O'Neill goes long inside 450. Robinson's got to back himself and does so. Always so reliable in that defensive 50. Switches play to Taylor. He's probably playing a bit behind where he usually does, usually floating across that midfield position, but probably playing off a halfback today. Dishes it to his teammate now in Gleeson. His teammate from Torquay, Gleeson, gets the 1-2 from Holland and goes along the line again. And now Bellarine just playing a little bit of stop-start footy as they look to go inside 450. Clark's there. The kick over the top was not bad, but it was a drop mark from Corridig, the Ocean Grove co-captain. It's being held in there. The umpire will call a ball up. I almost thought he's going to ping him there.
I'm impressed with the umpires at the moment. They're letting that go. They're letting right to the last minute before they do call the ball up. They're waiting for a player to give the player a chance to get it out.
That's it.
But on about halfway between centre half forward and the centre of the ground, this time it's in Bellarine's first forward 50. Picked up there by Burnside. He couldn't get a clear handball out. He puts Field under pressure for Western Border. Scrappy handballs, but now the Western Border might be able to get a clearance through O'Neill. He's wrapped up and brought to ground. And again, umpire's giving them plenty of chance to get the ball out. So this time it's going to be a bounce down.
Well, that's good to see.
In the true centre position.
It's good to see. They look like fairly youthful umpires there too. It's always good to get the new blood umpires coming through. As Orvis won the tap over the top. Inside there was Gleeson, couldn't get any free hands out. And we'll have a secondary bounce, it looks like. No, even the umpire willing to let it go for a little bit. Dane Taylor at the back, the Torquay representative. Copped a high tackle, play on was called. Ball just dribbles inside 450. Clark just too slow off the mark. Wrapped up Phillips, just dropped the ball. Calls from the crowd, went play on. Bell Warren got it inside 50. The bump ball wasn't there, and trying to clean up was Paprotny. Still ground footy. No one can get a handle on it, but the umpire's happy to let it go and swept out through Phillips. Phillips to the outer side, looking for O'Neill. Those two have linked up a fair bit early. O'Neill gets the handball over the top to Berkefeld, and he goes along the line to the 2-on-1. It's a foot race now. The old versus the new. Robertson tracks it down, got held, pay on called. Still ball at ground level. The umpire just trying to let things go, but as it trickles over the boundary line, a decent contest there from both players.
Well, I thought Bellarine was very unlucky not to get a free kick down here at centre half forward when the Bellarine player wrapped up Jason Phillips from Western Border and the ball spun out. It probably should have been paid a free kick, so they probably feel hard done by. The boundary throw in on the half forward flank now for Western Border. So the ball was transformed fairly quickly. Bellarine just kick it blank, and it trickles over the boundary line on the wing on the far side of the ground on the Mooraville Street side, with no addition to the score since Western Border's first goal from Berkeville in the first minute, and we've now been playing 7.25 minutes. Matthew?
Yes, it was, and out in the full too, so it'll be Michael Bennett from Milson who'll take the free kick. On centre wing, looks to go long along the line, but sort of brings it inside a little bit more. There's your free man, and a nice mark taken.
Chris Povey, East Gambia full forward, he's hard at these contests. He's been in a regular interleague player for about 4 years now. And knows how to make his mark. He's very hard at the ball and he's a good kick. Might be a little bit far out if he kicking from just on 50.
So Povey lines up. Gives it a fair old roost. It'll definitely take the distance and a decent accurate kick too. So Western Border have their second. Povey has his first. 2-0-12 to Bellarine, yet to score 8 minutes into this opening term.
Well, a solid start by Western Border. Not a brilliant start, but at least solid. To be honest, I thought they'd be going in as underdogs in this game. We're missing a few senior players that could have got a Guernsey, and Justin McConnell and Richard O'Grady, in particular from North Gambia. And just reading through the Bellarine side and talking to John Fitzgerald, the coach, on Thursday during the week, I'm fairly confident. It's just a bit slow out of the blocks.
Yeah, definitely. Orvis up on the ruck now against his opponent in Bennett. Neither really won the tap. The handball was out. Orvis again got his hands off to Finch, and Finch found a teammate in Corridig. He has to wait and look, and goes long in board. Just a little chip, in fact. Now Bellarine can move it through. They've got Clark on the lead. He goes to ground and takes the mark. Probably outside of Clark's range. He's about 45 out. He looks like he's going to size things up, but I'm not too sure this is within him. Only about a 45-degree angle. Tim Clark, the playing coach of Geelong Amateur.
Put your neck on the line, Matthew. Goal or no goal?
No goal. Oh, gee.
That'll come back to haunt you, Matthew.
That's the commentator's curse, isn't it?
I'm sure when Clark, he's a commentary, come on, boys, and grab a beer out of him.
I should have never doubted him. I owe you one, Timmy.
Good goal for Tim Clark. He was named as vice captain of the Bellarine side and lining up at centre half forward. They led well. It was some good linking there. There were 3 good leads and 3 good kicks and marks, and it was polished off by Clark to reduce the gap to 1 goal. Wexford brought 2 straight, Bellarine 1 goal. And we're just on 9 minutes into this first quarter.
I was probably half changing my decision as that ball went through mid-air.
We'll give you a chance to get it.
As Olfa snaps it down, but it went to his opposition now. Western Border going inside 50, but there's no one home. Steve Owens is happy to clean up in front of Malira. Owen, the chip kick, put his team under pressure. It's a late hit, but it didn't matter. Carmichael now. Carmichael for Drysdale. Goes inboard. The kick was meant to go to Robinson, but it was poor, and Coxon, the captain for Western Border, will go inside to the 2-on-1. Holland from behind, always a good interleague representative now. Tracking the ball down there was Carmichael, who's in the thick of things once again. On the left boot, just goes bang to space. It's a run now, it's a foot race for Corridig. Tried to get it, and the ball bounced off his foot. Now who can take it? Still no one, and the ball's going to trickle over the boundary line.
Well, you might have plucked a free kick out of that. The Western Border have come up with the ball. Daniel Falcone just on the wing, or centre half forward position, inboard and finds Malira about 40 metres out, might be 35, dead in front. Malira looks like he's been in a good paddock since his AFL days, that's for sure.
I was going to say the same thing, yeah. You reckon 85 kilos on here is about right?
The scales might have broke before they got to the end of it. Malira, he'll be kicking from about 40. Dead in front. Very little wind conditions here today, and with the stand down, it could have made a difference. Malira coming in for Western Border's 3rd goal. The umpire just drifts off to his left-hand side of it, and the first blemish on the board. It's a point to Western Border, courtesy of Malira. Western Border now 2-1-13, lead Bellarine 1 straight 6, and we've travelled 11 and a half minutes in, and underneath that ball held his target well was Burnside. Burnside comes inboard on the wing side, right in front of the members. I think there was pick up there was
Finch, yes.
Finch couldn't clear it completely, and he gets it back. He gets a second chance. He was tempted to play on. He's now going to just chip it over the top. And underneath that ball, Bellarine have taken possession. They've got a spare player now. It was picked up by Clark, who's the scorer before, and good vision. And he finds Mitch Scott from Drysdale, crept on it a bit and got it over towards shot at goal. There was only 1 point. No, it wasn't a point, didn't go through. Western Border are now able to clear. Smothered it by Clark. Clark chipped it out. Looked like through there was Ridings, I think it was, Matthew.
Yeah, I'm the full, yeah.
The goal was absolutely terrible on the left foot.
And I think
goal in front of him, and the ball's been kicked into the construction yard of the new stand, which is still some months away.
I think Mitch Scott was in 2 minds there too. Didn't really know if he wanted to pass it off or go for home. Regardless, Western Border can now work it back out of their defensive 50, and they've got a bit of space. It's got to be a free kick, and it's well paid. The umpire's going to call advantage. Dyson Bell Warren lays a tackle, and it's a little bit unlucky for Western Border. Now there's even more advantage. Taylor runs over. Bell Warren has to track this one down himself. Gets caught almost immediately. Bellarine working inside their forward 50. Who's there? Corridig went up. Ball went down. Play on. Scott around the corner. We know how he performs in big games.
Good vision by Scott. He saw that loose player. And
he did.
It was a very clever kick.
And Daniel Hovey for Barwon Heads. He's been their main forward target all year so far, and we know he's capable of kicking it back. He booted 10 in one game earlier in the year, but since then he's dropped off a little bit with Barwon Heads' poor form. Can he drill this one today and bring the margin back to within a point?
He stabbed at it a little bit, but he got the desired result. It wasn't the prettiest kick going around.
But as long as it goes through those big sticks, it's all right.
That was the main one. So where are we? 13 and a half minutes now into this first quarter. The margin's been narrowed down to 1 point. As in that last few minutes too, Matthew, I reckon Bellarine have made about 5 interchanges. Western Border have made 3 in about the same time. And as we speak, Brady McDonald from Imperials comes off the ground and replaced by Dwayne Phillips from East Gambier. Phillips is one of 2 brothers playing today. There's 3 brothers that play with East Gambier, but 2 got Guernseys in the interleague team today. think they've run out of footballs now. I mean, that ball was kicked over in the new stand area as well, and they've sent out a search party. I can see one sitting on a slab of concrete down there. No one's gone to get it, and you might have to send out search parties for the boundary umpires.
Well, that's also that construction site maybe creates a little bit of wind too. It's always going to be hard kicking to that end of the ground, the city end. As we still wait for the ball just to be transported in, it's only 1 point the difference on the scoreboard. But have you seen either side grab any sort of momentum early?
Well, Western Border seem to have a little bit more momentum and thought, I think, going up forward. Bellarine probably a little bit Clark conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Very impressed with Mitch Scott with his vision. So anyway, they've restarted in the centre now with a couple of tackles and the ball not getting cleared. I think the umpire's going to rush in and bound it up, throw it up. No, he's now allowed it to get out. It's kicked out by Brad Bryant now as a race with the ball. Phillips from Western Border is one player. Bo Bentley looks like the other one that's come in. But Bentley just trying to smother the kick. Bellarine are up to the task though. Kick forward, but this time Jesse Fry, a youngster, I think he's playing his 30th league game today. And he's still only got 18 or 19 years of age, so good talent.
Listen to the rain coming down.
Chris Povey gets a run underneath the ball. He can't get to it. Bentley's underneath it now. Gets a second chance. Overrun the ball. Just on Dylan Ryan from Casterton. It's Dylan Coxon's teammate from the Cats. The Bellarine are there safely in numbers. I think this might be Finch, is it, Matthew? Coming out of the half-back line. Drives it forward and underneath the ball this time will be... This might have been Finch. I think it might have had Burnside and Finch mixed up.
Perhaps. Clark now trying to track this one down, and with him there is Bell Warren, who just kept running that whole time. Gee, wouldn't this be good? He can go. Dyson Bell Warren goes inside forward 50, looking for his teammate in Holmer, but he was just too slow off the mark, and Western Border can repel quite easily. Waiting there at the back of the pack was Folks, who spoiled over the top quite well, and it's going to be out of bounds for throw in. But as I just mentioned, the rain is starting to pour down now, and I know when it gets wet, that's when you see the best players come out.
That was good work by Folks too, and he was outnumbered almost 4-1, and he was actually the only player that did touch the ball. And his only option was to knock it over the boundary line. It was never going to be called deliberate, so that was his only option.
He's probably playing a little bit out of position today too. Usually likes to be a little bit closer to home. The umpire's going to call advantage play on. Gleeson got the hands over. Inside Mitch Scott looking for a forward target, but there was Finch, who went around the corner on the left boot, bagged a goal. The Monterey captain puts Bellarine in front, 3-0-18, Western Border 2-1-13.
Well, the momentum swung, hasn't it, from the bright start of Western Border. The ball been cleared purely by strength of numbers by Bellarine across half back. They're getting 3 or 4 to the ball and outnumbering Western Border. And if they can get it forward quickly, you catch the others out of position. Good work again by Mitch Scott. He looked for a target. A fist got to the ball, but it was snapped up again. They picked up the crumbs.
Yeah, that's it. Mitch Scott, a former best on ground winner in a grand final a couple of years ago when Drysdale took the chocolates as players restarted back in the middle. Holmer now into the ruck now for Bellarine as the quick hands out from Hawkins for the Western Border. Kennedy trying to track it down there, the West Gambia player. But Bell Warren was held without the footy. Play on call. Hands out from Bryant. Brad Bryant got the ball down now, and it's going to be out of bounds again once more. The smother was good. Every coach loves a good 1%er. As the rain continues to pour down, we might see a few more of those.
We'll see a lot more of those. This game has probably got the potential now to be bottled up a little bit because of the weather. But the wind is creeping up, coming from the south-west, I suppose, at the end of the ground.
Yep.
And because there's no cover there or no grandstand, it's going to come whistling down the ground. So scoring's going to be a premium, particularly if you're kicking that in.
As Holmer booted it in too, trying to get the hand out now. It was in there was Chapman for the Western Border. Got his hands over with McIntosh. As the rain continues to even pour down now, teeming with rain. Western Border now in a little bit of trouble, a little bit of strife, but Birkefeld is always reliable with the footy. Gleeson stands his mark. Birkefeld, the vice-captain, just weighs up his options and continues to go down the line. Puts his teammate Brad Bryant under a fair bit of pressure, and it was Steve Owen who won out for the Bellarine. Owen switches play and goes across and finds his Cooters teammate in Ridings, who's been very influential early. Ridings goes in board, looking for the marking target of Folks, who dropped the mark. Probably excusable in this weather. Quickly wrapped up by Tom Lim, the Bellarine captain, and we should see a ball up.
Well, just probably over the halfway mark in this first quarter, 19 and a half minutes in, and Bellarine have got the momentum, I suppose. They're 3 straight 18 to 2-1-13. Western Border kicked the first 2 goals. That was in the first 8 minutes, but haven't looked like doing much since. Bennett for Western Border kicks the ball forward, but this time Bellarine are up to the task around the middle. They're there with numbers, 3 or 4 numbers ago, and they wrap up all the Western Border players. do it again time through Jesse Fry. Jason Phillips kicks it out. He finds a loose man in the vice-captain of the Western Border team in Simon Berglund. Just steadies himself. A shot from outside 40. It's going to be edged inside. Hobie tries to do something special, but by kicking it off the carpet, doesn't work. And a point to Western Border as they move to 2-2-14, 3 straight 18 as Bellarine take over.
Yeah, he went for the acrobatics there. Probably not the most smartest of options, but what else could you do, really, as we see Dylan Holland now in the long sleeves? A wise move considering the weather we got today. Dylan Holland, a former Bull Bennett medal winner for best on ground in the Interleague, goes inside and finds his teammate now looking for Louis Holmer. Holmer from Ocean Grove, who got the haircut just recently, got rid of those big long dreadlocks, goes inside 450. Clark's there, he's got to talk, but he did well. Folks and Clark sorted it out. Clark wasted no time and dropped it into Finch, who is in almost 30 metres out. Nearly the same spot he kicked his goal from just a few moments ago, and he's having an impact early.
He's having a very big impact on this game as Finch. He's very creative in what he does and picks up numerous positions and drags teammates into the game too with a foot and hand passing. Now a shot at goal directly in front, kicking into the breeze. That might go against him. He might have to try and force a little bit. But from about 40 metres, good steady action. The umpire just drew it to the right a bit. It looks safe to me. All the players like it around it. So
that's a goal.
He kicks his second for the game as Bellarine went to 4 straight 24. Not a big gap yet, it's only 10 points, but it's significant in the fact that they've got the momentum.
That's exactly right too, and as soon as you get a few goals out in the rain, I know it's not back in the days where we used to be playing in sliding mud, but as soon as you get a few goals out in the rain, the ball becomes heavy and play becomes a little less flowing. I guess it's sort of hard to come back from a momentum like that.
Well, I was watching Keith Ransom, the Western Border coach. He's down on the right on the boundary line talking to his 2 runners in Adam Salmon and Brent Forsyth. They're former South Gandra and Imperials players, or Brent is still current. They're just trying to come up with some alternatives to stop this flow of goals from Bellarine. Anyway, back in the middle, it's picked up by Brett O'Neill for Western Border. He couldn't get clean touch. Now it's going to be cleared through Burnside. He gets a hand pass out, but it's all fumbles there, and nobody can pick it up. And the slippery ball might be just taking a bit of effect now. Centres it. There's a big effort by Sean Phillips over the back, Dwayne Phillips over the back this time to punch it. Birkenfeld's in there for Western Border, and 2 Bellarine players, and the umpire says, "Oh, well, the boys will ball it up." As we creep up to the 21.5 minute mark, so probably another 3 or 4 minutes to go in this first quarter, with Bellarine leading 4 straight 24 to 2-2-14.
Josh Finch, a former league best and fairest medal winner too, so he knows how to perform in the big games. As Brad Ridings was caught over the shoulder, he's almost been the best on ground so far. I think he's been really in under, and that's his sort of game style that he likes to play. Ridings finds a spare target in Holmer. You can't leave Louis Holmer alone, and he can look now. He's got a man leading up, but he decides not to go it. Looks for a second option, decides to push it out to the boundary line. Maybe not the smartest of ideas. It's going to be punched straight over from the Western Border player. I think it might have been Paprotny who pushed it over the boundary line there for a throw in.
Matthew, I'd imagine it's going to be very difficult to score goals from deep in that right forward pocket.
The dead pocket, yeah.
Boundary throwing. That's Coxon this time taking the boundary throwing for Western Border. He's the skipper. He's just having a spell with Bennett. Again, very messy at the boundary throw-ins and the ball up in the middle too. Matthew and no team can get clear possession, but again, the umpires are giving them plenty of opportunity to clear it.
Not a whole lot of height in this Western Border team. Can Coxon move through the ruck if needed?
Yes, he alternates at his club level. He alternates between centre half forward and playing in the ruck. So.
There's a big tackle there from Ridings and ball at ground level once more. Just looking at the sort of stats here, we've got nearly 3 or 4 players above 190 centimetres for Bellarine, but only 1 for the Western Border. That might be an area where they get the upper hand.
It could be, however, on a day like this now with the wind and the rain settling in, the ball's probably going to spend a lot more time on the ground, which will suit the smaller player.
You're right, as Finch has a wild attempt at goal and comes off the side of the boot to go out in the full. So he couldn't add to his 2 goals he scored already. Bellarine 4, Zip 24, Western Border 2-2-14.
And they've turned the lights on and we're not even at quarter time.
It says a lot.
We might be struggling to see the other side of the ground. Western Border got possession on the halfback line. I won't say they've got control, but at least they've got possession. Chips over the top, looks like for anyone would have been Jason McIntosh, but the ball was thumped by Bellarine forward players and over the boundary line. It's in front of the Simmons Stadium.
Wouldn't be a bad idea to bring out those fluoro yellow footies we saw them using in the warm-up too.
It would have been today, something that we can see fairly clearly. Because the ball is actually blending in with the Bellarine jumpers to a certain the bright red.
Which isn't handy for us. As the ball trickles again towards the boundary line, we might have another throw in. Yes, we will. Both teams probably just content maybe to try and not let the other side score for the last maybe 5 minutes of this first quarter as we approach a 24-minute mark at the opening term. Ball thrown back in. Holmer in the ruck, but the ball was smashed forward, and Berkefeld has a paddock if he can run onto it. It's going to be a hard one to pick up, but he controls it quite well. Berkefeld going inside 450. Who's there? Povey's around the place, but the ball just trickles over the back, and Robinson's there to clean up, so too Owen. Robertson takes the handball. He's got a man on his knocker, so he has to kick quickly and does so. Dane Taylor's there. Will he back himself in? He always does. Just bounces off his opponent in Chapman and runs. Now Daniel Gibbs, such a classy player in interleague, goes over the top. Finds his teammate in Finch. Finch inboard. Looking for Orvis it might have been, but Orvis couldn't get the track on it. And the ball is transferred over once more near the boundary line. Now Newell around the corner. An ineffective kick, touch play on, says the umpire. Folks, inside 450, just looking for a mark to try and get one. Still Western Border trying their hard at and repelling it out of the 450. Around the corner, Burnside wants a goal, but he's hit the post. Bellarine 4-1-25, Western Border 2-2-14.
First blemish for the Bellarine side. And it was a genuine attempted goal. Burnside thought he might have had it too. He put his hand up in jubilation, but it was to be denied when it hit the post. They were quickly into attack again, Bellarine, after the Western Border defenders couldn't clear the ball. Somewhere at the back, it looks like Alan Kennedy, the speedster from West Gambia. He's probably going to be one of the quicker players on the ground if he gets a chance to run with the ball. He's wrapped up by 2 or 3 Bellarine players. There's going to be a ball up in the left forward pocket on the Moorabool Street side of the ground, with Bellarine leading by 11 points. 25.5 minutes into this first quarter, there was a snappy goal.
Ridings just...
And another point, this time to Brad Ridings.
Just sharked it out of the pack there, but couldn't get the score he wanted. I know that obviously as the longer the game wears on, I think we'll be seeing less of running space and more just players congregating to the footy like you might see in under-12s game as Western Border bring it out of their defensive 50. A nice sliding mark there from Matt Newell, the Imperials player. Newell goes to the far side, and they've got a man on running if they can use him. Berkefeld has it now. Got a couple of numbers, goes inboard instead to his taller player in Coxon. Coxon, the captain, dishes hands now, going for the 1-2. It was Ryan, but the kick was offline from Michael Bennett, the Millicent player.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of Bennett play this year. He's been new to the Western Border, or back to the Western Border. He's been playing in the SNFL at league level for a few years, but he's dropped back to Millicent this year and been going very well apparently. Anyway, Bellarine have got the ball down to the members' side wing. They now try to centre it, and underneath it was might have been Clark. Now it's picked up by Steve Owen. Owen onto the right foot, but his kick falls short of his intended target as it again gets scrappy. Trying to bust his way through there was Falcone for the Western Border. Comes out now to Jane Propotny, South Gambia player. Underneath the two is Phillips and Brad Bryant. And again, it all gets wrapped up. We must be very close to siren time, Matthew.
Yeah.
Bellarine, I think, be fairly happy to take a 10-point lead in after being 2 goals down very early in the quarter.
You can barely see a single soul in the crowd now. There's one lucky spectator with an umbrella over his head, but that's about it. As Western Border try and get a clear kick out, but still no one can do that. It's going to be such hard conditions now and there with a heavy footy and plenty of bodies just piling around the tackles. I can't imagine what they're going... I'm glad I'm not out there on the field, I'll tell you that much.
It's nice up here, boys, if you want to join us. All up on the half-forward line for Bellarine, leading by 10 points. Very, very close to quarter time. Time can't be far away as the players are showing no fear whatsoever. They're all pounding themselves onto the ball. Can't get it out. And yet another ball up, about third in as many minutes, or third in less than a minute probably.
Sort of fearless attitude is what earns you an interleague Guernsey too, I guess, as the ball is tossed right back up. It was Corridy who tried to go for the ruck tap, but he couldn't do much about it. Ridings was hovering around there. So too Ryan for the Western Border. A little poke kick forward from Mitch Scott. Tried to kick it to the advantage of his teammate in Clark. The Western Border player there just tried to fend off, and yeah, it's probably a fair enough. It was McIntosh who was caught with the ball.
There's a blink of an eye. I suppose some people say he rode him into the ground, but I thought it was a good tackle. It was Daniel Hovey, Darwin Heads player. He kicked Bellarine's second goal. He's got a chance. This angle might not be too bad, not quite as deep in the pocket as we spoke about before. And looks pretty good.
And drills it.
His second goal for the afternoon. And Bellarine's fifth.
Now go get that footy.
So we've got 28, almost 29 minutes into this quarter as they creep out to a 17-point lead, 32 to 15. It's a handy little break now.
It is.
These conditions. You'd possibly think that every goal is worth 2 when it gets windy and wet.
What does Keith Ransom say at quarter time to the boys?
Back to the basics. Don't waste an opportunity, particularly in going forward, and don't crowd the forward line. Give Povey a chance, and probably Coxon if he's playing at centre half forward, and you'll get that opportunity now.
Welcome back. Second quarter action in this WorkSafe VCFL Interleague Championship between Bellarine and the Western Border as the ball is returned back to the middle and straight up through the Bellarine. They're going to get the attack on quite quickly as Corrigan there trying to track the ball, going pretty quickly and still trying to pick it up, was almost tackled as soon as he got the footy. And we'll have a quick boundary throw in just 15 seconds into this first quarter with Bellarine leading the Western Border by 17 points.
The rain stopped, the sun's come back out. Not going to turn the lights off for a while.
An interesting afternoon here at Simmons Stadium as the ball's tapped over the back. Bell Warren got it in there quite quickly and the ball just dribbling over the back. Could this be an interesting goal? It looks like it. The Bellarine have their 6th. Umpire confirms Bell Warren is probably as shocked as anyone else out there on the ground. Bellarine 6-2-38, Western Border 2-3-15. That's a handy one just starting off this second quarter.
A little bit of a goal out of nothing. I'm just trying to pick up the player. It was the guy here on the wing just in front of us. He was the one who kicked it. He was getting all the accolades from the teammates around him. So
Bell Warren.
We'll give it to Bell Warren.
Yeah.
So 38-15 now. So another good start for Bellarine. Not what the Western Border wanted at all. It was a bit of a goal out of nothing.
It was. I'm sure he didn't expect it, but it's there anyway. Ball tossed back up in the middle. Orvis won the tap down, did well. Roving around in there was Finch. Put the block on too. The kick through there was Carmichael. Inside 450 Clark. Just tried to dish the hands out, but no one was there for him. And it was Newell, who's now looking for a teammate. Dishes hands off. McIntosh it may have been. Hands from Chapman. Player went to ground. The ball just falls over the boundary line. We'll have a throw in.
I don't think that was the best option from Chapman, handing it back to Jason Phillips. He really had nowhere to go but the boundary line. So boundary throwing on Bellarine's half forward flank. Over the back was McIntosh for Western Border. He knocked it down, was picked up by Tom Lim, the Bellarine captain. A good vision, good pass. Probably a little bit of a hospital pass, but this player was good enough to be underneath it and hold on to it. And it was how do I pronounce it?
Corrigan, yep. And Tommy Lim just strolls through and he loves those goals. And he just kept on running. And that's Bellarine's 7th goal for the afternoon. 7-2-44. Western Border 2-3-15. 2 goals in 2 minutes. And that's probably exactly what Keith Ransom would not have wanted.
Exactly what he didn't want. You'll see Keith, he's got to have it normally. He'll stand up on the boundary line. He rarely sits down to watch games. If the arms are folded, as they are now, I'm not sure we're picking up on vision. If the arms are folded, he's getting frustrated. So, back in the middle of the ground, and Bellarine now got a significant break, a 29-point break after trailing by 12 points early in the first quarter. Bennett and his opponent there was Orvis. It wasn't a clean tap away from either of them. Kicked up forward for Bellarine once again, bursting through the pack was Hovey, who kicked a couple of goals in the first quarter. But he overran the ball, and here's yet another bounce down. I reckon it's the 15th or 16th of the afternoon, Matthew. We've had plenty of them, and probably plenty more to come yet.
Spot on. It's hard to think about, but Bellarine kicked the last 7 goals, and it's been a massive change of momentum, as it was Bennett in there for the Western Border League, now trying to get down on all fours. The hands up from Orvis out the back. Who's going to put their body on the line and grab the footy? Finch is hovering around there. So too Carmichael, it was the Drysdale representative, who's in there and wrapped up almost immediately. The umpire's going to let it go for a little bit. The ball came out the back. Mitch Scott just kicked it off the ground. Good vision to see it. But tracking the ball down there was Paprotny. Went on the footy. Hands out. Clark loves these ones. Snaps it around the corner. And that's 3 goals in 4 minutes of Bellarine. And it's starting to get a fair old buffer, isn't it?
It's starting to get a little bit ugly, to be honest. And Bellarine 3 goals in 4 minutes in this quarter. And they take the gap out now to 35 points. Western Border just don't seem to have the answers. And I just noticed then when the ball was around half forward, Bellarine had 2 spare players across the last forward line for them. So Western Border were running out of numbers there, and they need somebody to drop back, even if they sacrifice a player in their own forward line, just to man up down there, because there are too many loose players across half forward for for Bellarine when it counts, when they've got the ball there.
Yeah, and I saw it too in this morning, the Colts game, where the Geelong League, the Ballarat League almost were playing with only one player in their forward line. Could Western Border do that and flood a few players back as Dwayne Phillips kicks it to the outer side, trying to track it down there as Coxon. It's a hard ball to pick up, but he did all right. He did very well. And then hand off to Falcone. Falcone was immediately confronted, but dished off the hands regardless. And then went to a 2-on-2 contest, a little bit of holding not paid, play on the call. Dizzy Holland down there at the back gets the hands off to Bell Warren. And Bell Warren, a little chip over the top to Finch, who's gone a little bit missing since we saw those early 2 goals, but I'm sure he'll be influential throughout the rest of the game. The little chip now, that's Carmichael. Bellarine have numbers, they're just spreading. And look who's creating now, it's Tommy Roberts. And over the top, he can look to run and goes fairly long along there. Tim Clark just punched him out. Play on call, use his body very well. He does that for the Amos, he does that for the interleague team. Finds his teammate in Folks, who just nudged his way under the ball. And there's probably nothing his opponent could do about that.
Basically just stood his ground, didn't he?
Yeah.
He let the Western Border player back into him. Didn't push him in the back, didn't do anything wrong at all.
And he loves the celebration goal too. He does that every single week. You could be 10 goals down and Michael Folks will get the come on going. It's reminiscent of Leighton Hewitt as he celebrates, as Bellarine should be celebrating, 9-2-56, Western Border 2-3-15, 41 points now.
Well, Western Border have had some years in the wilderness at VCFL level. They got a win last year when they beat the Geelong District League by 11 points in Mount Gambier. Bellarine, I understand, Matthew, haven't won a game for 5 years, and I don't think they've played a home game for 5 years either. So
they have not.
That's a significant factor.
Yep.
And there's a lot riding on it. 13th versus 14th might not sound all that exciting, but there's a lot of pride at interleague level.
Well,
the loser drops back to 15th, the winner goes up to 12th, and then a chance to get into the top 10.
I think top 10 is really the aim right now for John Fitzgerald and his group, and I think there's about 30 leagues or so in the VCFL, so they're about sitting midway, and you've got the Geelong Football League, another league in this area that's about third or second and really pushing. But the Bellarine, they want to win today, and Orvis taps it out of the ruck, and the kick was straight up there from the Western Border player. It might have been Crawford. The handball out, tackled straight to the ground was Anderson, and the umpire will call for it.
It's Gareth Crawford again, the Hamilton player who laid that tackle. He's in and amongst everything in the middle of the ground, Crawford. He's one of the better players in the Western Border camp. At times picked up by Dwayne Phillips, one of the two East Gambier brothers that are in the side today. Driving it forward, looking for Fraser Scanlon, an East Gambier teammate of his. Chips it over the top and finds a teammate. Probably a little bit far out, it's Scanlon. However, he's got the ball and Bellarine haven't on this occasion, so a chance to narrow the gap and possibly just stop the momentum that's been going with Bellarine, particularly in this first 6 minutes.
Dylan Ryan, in fact, I think it is with the footy. He'll be kicking from about 45 on a slight angle. And he's got the distance all right, and he's got the accuracy too. That's a confidence booster for Western Border as they reduce the margin only slightly, but 3-3-21 now, trailing Bellarine 9-2-56 by 35 points.
Good kick by Ryan from there. The wind is still there a little bit. It's not as bad as it was late in their first quarter. But again, it stops the right. 4 goals or 5. If we go back further, it's probably 9 unanswered.
9, yep, 9 in a row.
In my notes, so it's 4 this quarter, and they kicked the last 5 of that first quarter. So not a game turner by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a handy one for Western Border. But it saves face a little bit. As Bennett and Orvis go up against each other. Bennett got the first tap, but didn't get any advantage to the Western Border team. Again, players are wrapped up, and Bellarine forced their way through. I think there was Ridings that got the kick away. He's got a teammate now chasing with the ball in Hovey. Hovey over to Scott. Scott back to Clark. Clark on the right foot, and he's very creative. He's looking for Folks, but the ball was punched by the Western Border fullback. And first point for the quarter for Bellarine as they move to 9-3-57 to 3-3-21.
Yeah, Clark's experience is paramount, and so too Mitch Scott has also been quite impressive in this game so far. That's a big blunder there, and Carmichael just turned around on the left foot, but probably had a little bit more time than he expected and pushed it to the near side, 9-4-58, 3-3-21, as Western Border can move it back out of there again. Who have you seen that's impressed you so far from the Western Border side?
Oh, I'd like Gareth Crawford around the middle of the ground. Grant Coxon's been good. He's been a good captain. Graham Burkefield's been good for Western Border, so he's very creative in what he does. And he links up well with a couple of his South Gambier teammates in this team, in Brad Bryant and Brett O'Neill. They're going okay, as well as James Propotnik's another one.
I think that's what the interleague selectors sort of try and get at when they put a few players from the same side in each line of the footy, just to try and get a bit of the gel, a bit of the chemistry going on there. As it was Hovey who went to the mark and got knocked down. Clark there on all fours trying to pick it up. A quick kick out there, the Western Border side. It's Bell Warren trying to track down Malera. Malera just shrugged him off and turned around and then went inside. A risky kick, but it came off all right. The quick hands now. It's Falcone who dished it, but it was poor. Roberts went back around the corner. Who's tracking it now? It's Newell up against Clark. Clark dished hands to Finch. Finch has a couple of options, goes for the ladder, and it will be Pete Corridig who can line this one up. Corridig, probably he'll kick from about 40 out on about a 45-degree angle, but for a right footer, it shouldn't be too bad.
He had his name all over that ball as soon as Finch kicked it. Just barreled it straight down, lace up. He couldn't ask for better. Got a perfect angle on this, 45-degree angle, 40 metres out.
He's ridden it home. Yep. Just used the advantage of the natural hook there, I think, too. So Bellarine pushed their lead out to 10-4-64, Western Border 3-3-21. I know as commentators you don't like to make any calls early, but you know what, another Bellarine goal, maybe one or two, and it could start to get ugly.
I think it's already got to the ugly stage, to be honest. 43 points, and the Western Border was probably a token goal from Dylan Ryan 7 minutes into this quarter. We're now over the 10-minute mark, and they've Bellarine have kicked 5 goals. And yeah, that's just a worrying sign, because Western Border simply aren't getting their hands on the ball quite enough.
Ball back up in the middle. Now Western Border, they got a chance for attack here as Berkefeld. He was caught when he kicked, but the count all right. A little nudge under was good from Ryan, who was the recent goal kicker. Ryan wheels around his left foot, looks for a target. The mark was knocked out of his hands. Probably should have been paid. Play on cold. Kick around the corner from James Proprotny, and that's just a minor score. Bellarine wasting no time, and it's Robinson who gets the ball out quickly, trying to find his teammate in, it might have been Josh Gray. Gray dishes the hands out back to Robinson. The Ox under pressure. Still Bellarine under pressure, in fact. They're in a bit of a tight spot here, but can they work their way out of it? A slippery ball, hard to get up. It was Burnside who dished hands. Probably not the best decision to go back into the play where Western Border were just hovering. Burnside a little throw out. Ridings around the corner now. Western Border out the numbers. It was a decent attempt from Finch. Finch just held his ground for a little bit while Western Border worked their way to the boundary line, and probably a decent result there for Bellarine.
I noticed one move that Ransom has made. He put James Proplotny down to the forward line. And
yeah.
The first quarter he played across half back line. At club level in the Western Border League for South Gambia, Proplotny has been playing forward and been kicking goals. 4 in a club game a couple of weeks ago, so that might be a benefit for them. They've got to get the ball to him first of all, though, Matthew.
Exactly.
To get the score.
Could be an interesting tactic, yes, of course. Now Bellarine can work it out of their defence with relative ease. It was Roberts, I believe, who kicked it forward. They got to talk now. It's Corridig. Corridig, he has men pushing away. It was a Holmer who was there just hovering. Couldn't do anything about it, though, as kicked out through Chapman. Chapman on the left, it was a poor kick to no one in particular. Ridings dish hands to his teammate in Lim. And then back to Gleeson it was, who went to Ridings again, who kept running the whole time. Pushing one out was Finch, and he can line up for number 3. An experienced player in these parts, Josh Finch.
Solid mark for him.
Yeah, it was.
Not a big guy, it was a packed mark, but he just stood his ground, got good clean hands still.
Only a medium-sized forward. He usually plays throughout the middle at club level, but can also go down forward and kick a couple of goals. And they'll be looking for number 3 here, and to really extend Bellarine's lead. Not much of an angle to speak of, although it's pushed across the face. Not even going to make the distance. In there in the goal square, Folks is hovering. Clark there too. Hovey was around, but booted out of there by Matt Newell, who's had a bit of it. Unfortunately for him, though, the kick went straight to Ridings, who will take the kick from about 50 out. I'm not too sure this was in Brad Ridings' range. However, last time I put the Moz on Tim Clark, I was on the wrong end. So.
Put your turn to 50 metres, but we'll get you before the afternoon's over. Good shot, good kick from Ridings. Just dragged it a fraction to the left, as you know.
It's gone straight through.
So the 11th goal of the afternoon for the Bellarine League as they move to 11-4-70. Western Border 3-4-22. That's Ridings' first goal. He's been in amongst quite a few passages of play this afternoon. He's certainly proving his worth.
He has, definitely, and he's only new to the Queenscliff team this year and only new to the BFL this year too, but he's definitely proved his worth, And I think just looking at the margin so far today, and do you think the home ground advantage sort of has any difference? I know Bellarine have lost their last 5 games in the last 5 years too. Like looking at today, they're up by nearly 50 points.
I think one thing that might be well and truly in favour of Bellarine is the fact that they've been able to train on Cardinia Park.
Yeah.
For the Western Border guys, it's new territory for most of them. And Bellarine have got the ball yet again. They've got Homer underneath it. None of them's going to give away too much in height and space. It's a crude old nudge in the back against the Western Border player and Josh Chapman, but it went unseen by the umpires. Racing onto the ball now, this looks like Folks, is it? I think it's been tackled by Gareth Crawford, I think it was, for Western Border, and the ball was just unceremoniously was pushed over the boundary line. So boundary throwing on Bellarine's half forward, right on the arc, just on the 50-metre arc on the members' side. Over the back was Western Border punched clear at no advantage to anyone. Bellarine got first touch on it through Burnside. He's been busy this afternoon as well. Now racing on it was Gleeson, just a kick off the ground. Comes out to, I think that was Homer, is it? So Homer on his right foot. Ollie Homer, he started the game on the interchange bench, but adds yet another one to the Bellarine score as they move to 12-4-76, and we've already stated it's ugly.
Yeah,
What's it getting like now?
I'm not too sure Louis Holm was expecting that goal too. I mean, it was a decent kick too through. I think he was just running past, maybe not expecting to get the receive, but he's a decent kick too. His first year back at Ocean Grove after a little bit of an absence, and he's been proving to be a decent foil at club level, can move into the ruck as he's doing now, but also can play up forward. He's kicked 2 bags of 6 already this year, so he's quite influential around the ground.
He looks a good type, as I say. Not suited for big guys, but he ran onto that ball well, held his poise.
And agile too, yeah. As the ball comes back into the middle, the quick hands out from Coxon was not too bad, but Bellarine suddenly have a bit of an attack going. Lim overran it. In there was Falcone for Western Border as the ball is trapped up once more, and the umpire will call it.
Well, just crept over 16.5 minutes into this first quarter with Bellarine now leading 54 points. It'll be a long road back for Western Border, and I'm not just talking about driving back to Mount Gambier and other places. A long road back in the second half when we get there. Frank Coxon, the Western Border captain, looking forward upward to Michael Bennett, and Bennett had good hands and height on his side as well. A bit of a barren forward line.
Is this within his range?
Probably not. He's got Bo Bentley from Portland. He's got South Gambier's Simon Burkeveld in the goal square.
Looks like he's going to give it a ride though.
Not a bad kick, just to drag it a little bit to the left-hand side. It's falling short into the goal square. Just a scrambly player, and Bellarine will be up to the task as they can clear it. And then looking forward to Robertson, I think, number 20 for Bellarine, with the ball punched over the boundary line, deep in the right forward pocket. The ball, at least in Western Border's forward line, now they've got to turn it into something. It's a boundary throw, and it's going to be Coxon up against Roberts for Bellarine, but they're able to clear it through Finch looking for Scott, but he's underneath the ball but too far. That's picked up by Western Border through Chapman. Chapman centres it, but it's cut off, and Bellarine are able to clear it through Gleeson. Gleeson's looking for Homer in the centre of the ground. It was handy by not marking because he had the spare player right behind him.
Folks.
The ball spilled in. It was Folks, the one that couldn't hold on to it, and now the ball is back in Western Border hands as they're able to. They've got a spare player out on the far wing.
Now it's Alan Kennedy now. Can he use his pace? Not really when he's got that man in front of him. It's Brett O'Neill. O'Neill can just look to size things up. Where's the next goal for Western Border? I'm sure he doesn't actually know. He just goes along the line, waiting at the back of the pack there. It might have been Berkefeld, who can size things up a little bit and goes back inside. Now looking for a teammate, but he went to a 3-on-1. Not the wisest of ideas. Down there at ground level was Gleeson for Bellarine. He did well to work the backhands out. Around the corner might have been Carmichael. Now Folks just use his body to work his opponent out of it. Bell Warren on the left foot just boots it inside. Who does he go to? Hovey's a 2-on-1. Created the contest for himself, did quite well, and then put the tackle on. Mitch Scott just laid into his opponent. And the umpire's calling play on, play on. Could he ping him? Well, I'm interested to see how the umpire sort of thought that, because if he's tackled and he's called play on and then waits again, is it a ball up or is it holding the ball?
Certainly not umpiring at AFL level. I understand that and don't expect them to.
They're doing quite a good job there.
Deadly at AFL level, player over the ball will get pinged all the time. While we're speaking about that, Bellarine have added another goal. I think it might have been
Tom Lim.
Through the captain, Tommy Lim. So he's kicked his second goal for the afternoon as Bellarine extend the margin out to a neat 10 goals, 13-4 to 3-4. And I think the siren can't get quick enough now for Western Border. There's probably still about another 8 minutes left in this
Yeah,
turn. We're only 19.5 minutes in.
that's the scary thing. We could be seeing Bellarine maybe push the 200-point mark today if they really want to go for it.
Well, in recent years, Western Border, so they beat Geelong District last year by 11 points in a tight game. The year before, they were well beaten by Sunraysia. That game had played up at Border. The year before, they played the Wimmera League and were beaten in that by about 60-odd points. And then back in 2008, it was, remember the old the modified version? They only playing 2 20-minute halves,
Yeah.
30-minute halves. They played Bellarine that year. That was at Storm. They beat them. And then lost to the Murray League. So
Yeah, not the first time they've met.
no, so 2008 the most recent between these, but it wasn't the full 4 quarters. It was two. I think it was 25-minute or 30-minute halves that they
It
played.
was an odd thing. And Lim's down there over the ball, and so too was Bell Warren just tracking the footy. That tackle from Carmichael was good, but ball swept out to the Western Border League. Was Povey put it inside forward 50, trying to track down his teammate. Overran it was Bo Bentley, and now Bellarine can move through Holland, and Bell Warren, who's just trying to track down that footy, can dish the hands to Lim, but decides to go his own. Bell Warren looking for his teammate in Folks.
Bill Warren was the only one then in that passage to play that had clean hands, was able to get control of the ball and get it to a team.
Very silky player. Folks goes inside 450 at the back of the pack. Holmer, he couldn't do much about it as the ball just trickled over the line. But yeah, as you were saying, Bell Warren, he just kept on running and he just kept on picking it up.
Yes, I think if you're asked to rate your best 6 on the ground at the moment,
He'd be in there.
Guernsey.
Along too with probably someone like Brad Ridings, maybe even Holmer, who's been pretty influential over the second quarter. The tap over the back now, but it probably went to the disadvantage of Bellarine. Overran it was Clark. Ridings got the hands out to Clark again, who just picked it up and kicked it. But it's going to be collected at the full back line by the Western Border League. And it's James Paprotny who kicks it out.
Well, got Paprotny back into the last line defence, and I know Chris Povey, who started the game full forward, has been pushed out to centre half forward. Grant Coxon's now back at full forward. But the ball simply isn't getting up there enough for Western Border to make an impact. Ball socket off the ground by Bellarine over in front of the scoreboard on the Moorabool Street side, and it trickles out of bounds, showing 21.5 minutes on the clock, and more importantly a 10-goal lead to Bellarine, 13-4 to 3-4. And Tim Clark, Matthew, is he rated as the Steve Johnson of the Bellarine?
Well, he doesn't mind a goal, and especially loves those from the sort of the interesting places. He doesn't mind it from the boundary pockets, and I know Geelong Amo's crowd loves to get up and around it because he's such an influential figure at the club, being a playing coach. I'm not too sure if he has the agility of Stevie Johnson, but he definitely has the goal-kicking nous. As we've got Folks, I believe it is, lining up now. He'll kick from about 50. Gives it a fair old roost.
A bit of height.
Ooh, almost thought it went through.
And only just touched too on the
Newell. Thought he might have fresh airied that one, but regardless, any crowd member who's come to see the games today has probably seen two not very close games. The first Colts game was decided by over 100 points, and this one looks like it might follow the same pattern. As Paprotny takes the mark, he's been a bit of a swingman move from forward to forward, and then back again. As he goes inboard to Jesse Hawkins, the man from Hamilton goes across the ground, trying to find his teammate in Bennett, who takes the mark and holds up play nicely, just waiting for his teammates to spread. Dishes hands to O'Neill. O'Neill on the right foot goes across the ground and was looking for the young man Kennedy, but as that ball trickled over the boundary line, it's probably not the right option.
Coxon also ran down the ground to try and be part of that play. Couldn't get clean hands on it. Neither could Kennedy. Boundary throw, and it's going to be all of us up against Bennett, and neither player could get clean control. Chip forward and underneath it is Phillips, and he needs to be quick. He's hot. He's been told by his teammates that he's hot as well. But he gets the ball down, trying to find Dylan Ryan, his teammate. He doesn't. He turns it over. Now for Robertson coming out of half back for Bellarine. Goes up forward and finds a teammate in that the skipper in Tom Lim. Lim swings onto the right foot, finds a teammate just in the middle of the ground, but bounces off his chest. That was fairly ordinary by Gibbs, to be honest. Any relation with him?
Not at all.
None at all. Blame him after that. Anyway, Burkefield on the wing. He's got his captain clean and Coxon. Coxon back to Burkefield. Burkefield running around in circles. A handball back out. Looking for Jesse Hawkins from Hamilton. He's centres looking for Malira, and Malira just provides a stepping stone for a Bellarine player as Robertson takes control for Bellarine. Kicks it clear and finds Gleeson on the half-back flank. Chips it over. Bellarine looks like it's not Finch.
It is Finch, in fact.
It is Finch. He's picked it up, kicked in towards centre half forward. Big pack of players. The numbers are there for Western Border. They can't quite get control. Propotny kicks it out. Looking for a runner. Kennedy underneath it.
Caught without the ball.
Brady McDonald from the Imperials. He was dragged off the ball, didn't have possession, and he'll take a free kick.
We just saw Tom Lim come off the ground too and be replaced by Mitch Scott. Both players have been very influential, as going over the top there, it might have been Berkefeld who went to ground. Kick around the corner from Chapman was smothered, play on call. And just running the gauntlet there was Carmichael for the Bellarine, and his kick was sprayed off the side of the boot out in the full. And Western Border will take the free kick. Approaching the 25-minute mark of this second quarter, Bellarine 13-5-83, Western Border 3-4-22. It's a 61-point margin at Simmons Stadium.
9 goals kicked in the quarter, 8 to Bellarine, so I imagine we might have about 3 or 4 minutes left of time on. Might have been another 5 minutes yet. As across the half-back line, it's Povey gets the ball out to Kennedy. Kennedy goes for a run down the left-hand wing, inboard to Malera. He picks it up on one bounce, shrugs a tackle, now takes a ball and a bounce, kicks it forward. He's in there for his teammate in Fraser Scanlon. Scanlon runs the ball out. Dylan Ryan over there as well.
Malera backed himself there, but the kick wasn't great.
He did. I think he was tempted to stay on the right, and then he was forced to balk around
Yeah.
the line, but taken onto his left foot, which he didn't really want. Boundary throwing, Coxon underneath it. Nearly got it down to Dylan Ryan. But, just a gang tackle there by Western Border.
Umpire still calls play on.
There, they've let it go, haven't they? They've certainly been consistent in that area. That ball's off the side of the foot, out of bounds on the full. Alan Kennedy for Western Border will take the free kick.
So Kennedy,
Centres it. Looks for Michael Bennett. They've lost a bit of ground, but they've still got possession. Bennett just drives it up forward, centre half forward. Underneath it'll be Kevin Thompson. He's the
hands in the back.
push in the back.
Yep.
Yep, I think that's the way they called it. He just gave it a bit of a nudge out. Thompson.
Now Finch can take the play from half back. Dishes it to Robinson, who now has Gibbs, and running through his teammate, looking for Corridig. Went over the head of Corridig. Bell Warren's there in a foot race with Newell, who's done all right down back, Matt Newell. He's there again. Mitch Scott on his hammer. No one can get the hands out. Down the back there was Lim, who's come back on. Gang tackled. Could have been high. The umpire's going to say ball it up. As Lim seems a little bit worse for wear on the bottom of that pack. Always courageous. Just brushes himself off and gets back up. Ball thrown up against once more. The tap out from Corridig went straight to Finch. It was good. It was constructed. Hands over the top from Scott. They've got numbers, the Bellarine. Across the ground, Carmichael looking for his teammate and Tom Roberts. Roberts just chips. Was that a play on call? No, mark is taken. It might be Hovey. I think it is Hovey, yep. He looks to go and just finds Bell Warren all on his own. And you can't let a man of that stature get out on his own, and chips into Finch, and that's just...
Too many loose
yeah.
numbers. Tom Roberts, who took that ball in the centre of the ground and the free pass, was just given too much latitude by Malera, who sprinted about 60 metres to catch up to him. It should have been with him all the time. And you look around, even now, all the players are just standing still. How many players, at Bellarine in particular, 4 at centre half forward, not a player within killie of them.
It's almost like they've seemed to have conceded for this quarter, I'd almost say. As Finch comes in, looking for his third of the afternoon, and he drills it. Bellarine 14-5, 89, Western Border 3-4-22. The margin is getting out to 11 goals.
Well, over 11 goals now, 67 points. It's Finch's third goal for the afternoon. He's playing a very influential game. He's having a big impact on this game.
Comes straight off, as you do nowadays. Kick a goal, comes straight off, get the momentum going. And on comes Aaron Gleeson for the Bellarine side. Siren probably expected to go on in just a couple of minutes, maybe more time on.
Shouldn't be much more time on now, Matthew. 67 points to the gap. Big thump by Coxon. Looks at forward looking for Ryan. He kept on running.
Kept running.
It was good play, but he couldn't take control of the ball. Underneath it there was also Brett O'Neill. The Western Border, he just one or 2 or 3 players and just jump on top of a Bellarine player. And same as the umpires have done. Look, criticise them or not, at least they've been consistent in giving players opportunity to get the ball out.
No, I think they know exactly what they've been doing, and there's only maybe one that I would have picked up on. A game they've been very, very consistent. That's what you like to see in a game of this sort of quality. So, as the ball stays locked in again.
Yep, going to be another one. We've had plenty of these situations this afternoon. And I think it'll be a fairly tiring game too, because playing on a fairly big ground, and conditions that aren't conducive to really good smart football.
Mm-hmm.
That's taking its impact on the players. Bellarine seem to be holding up just that little bit better at the moment.
Burnside got the kick-in board, but it was only as far as Newell for Western Border. He just dishes his hands out to the right of side. It was Kennedy who went along the line looking for his teammate in Bo Bentley, but he dropped the mark. It was spoiled out of there. Hands from O'Neill. O'Neill just dished it back to Bentley, who went for home and touched on the line. Yep. Just rushed through for the one behind there. Western Border 3-5-23, trailing Bellarine 14-5-89. They waste no time getting out the Bellarine. Now Dane Taylor, who just got the hands off Ridings. Taylor went to Gibbs, who's got plenty of interleague experience and also VFL experience this year too. Gibbs dished the hands, got the 1-2 from his teammate Orvis. Right on the siren, Carmichael. That's half time. Bellarine 14-5-89, Western Border 3-5-23.